You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters, let's talk about a couple of the Stranger Things. Can we not get those uniforms this year? Just pointing that out. I thought, I'm going to be honest, I thought I was the only one that didn't care for them. And until that conversation came up in a couple of the watch party chats I was in, come to realize a bunch of folks can't stand those Stranger Things unis. So anyway.
Imagine a professional athlete making $250,000 a year, but still needing the league to pay their rent. That is the reality hitting the WNBA right now as the new collective bargaining agreement details leak to the public. Critics are calling it a welfare provision that would be laughed out of any other major sports league in the world. We are talking about grown women earning massive six-figure salaries while essentially receiving Section 8-style benefits from their employers. It is a level of hand-holding that has the sports world absolutely reeling because it contradicts everything these players say about wanting to be treated exactly like the men in the NBA.
When they start getting rid of housing, it's still pretty wild. In 2029 and 2030, only players making $500,000 or less, $500,000 a year or less, will be eligible for team-provided housing. And by 2031, only developmental players will receive this benefit. Again, I believe the only players that they should look at, well, you know what? Come to think of it,
the housing coverage in this new CBA is being described as nothing short of insane for a professional organization. For the first 3 years of this deal, every single player in the league is going to have their housing provided for them by the team. It does not matter if you are a superstar or the last person on the bench, you are getting your living expenses covered while you bank your entire salary. This has sparked a massive debate about whether this is a professional sports league or a developmental program for kids. The idea that a pro athlete cannot find a place to live on their own dime is becoming one of the biggest embarrassments for the league.
Subject to pay their own housing. I mean, it is one of the bigger, more embarrassing welfare provisions, for lack of a better way of putting it. I mean, WNBA players are getting Section 8 here. I mean, come on, for crying out loud. Now, let's scroll down here. The new CBA includes a salary cap exception for minimum salaries. And I saw this and was like, wait a minute, what? There are five tiers of minimum salaries in the new CBA. The rookie minimum is $270,000. There's my point.
But the handouts do not stop there, though the league is finally trying to put an end date on this strange arrangement. By the years 2029 and 2030, the rules will tighten slightly, but only for the high earners. Only players making $500,000 or less will be eligible for team-provided housing during that period. Think about that for a second. If you are making $500,000 a year, the league still thinks you need help paying for an apartment. It is a staggering safety net that suggests these players are not ready for the financial responsibilities that come with being a professional.
5 tiers of minimum salaries in the new CBA. The rookie minimum is $270,000. There's my point. If you can't find a good place to live off of $270,000, you're doing something wrong. You're doing something wrong. Players with 1 to 3 years of service will earn at least $277,500. The minimum for a player with 4 to 6 years of service is $285,000 and $292,500 for 7 to 9 years of service. The minimum for players with 10 or more years of service is $300,000.
The timeline for this welfare-style housing benefit eventually phases out by 2031, but even then it is not fully gone. By that point, only developmental players will receive the benefit. However, the logic behind this entire setup is being torn apart by analysts who look at the new salary figures. If a player is making a substantial wage, why are they subject to different rules than any other professional in any other industry? The only players who should arguably get this kind of help are those on 10-day contracts who are moving from city to city on a whim. For everyone else, it looks like a massive crutch.
The WNBA had to do this. quote, teams must obtain player consent before trading a pregnant player. Wow. Wow. It's a funny little thing to throw in a CBA. It's part of the reason why the WNBA is a content machine. People have asked me, Rhodes, why do you cover this league? Look, the interest in this league around the drama is unlike anything I've ever seen in the 6-year history of black and white sports. It is wild.
The real shock comes when you look at the actual salary numbers compared to these housing perks. The rookie minimum in this new CBA has jumped to a staggering $270,000. That is the floor. If you cannot find a decent place to live while earning $270,000 a year, you are doing something fundamentally wrong with your life. This is not the old WNBA where girls were making $60,000 or $70,000. These women are coming into the league making a substantial upper-class wage right out of the gate, yet the league is still acting like they are struggling.
I probably released 100 to 150 videos. I believe I counted it up. At one point, we had 35 or 40 million views off Brittany Griner. I was basically the only one that did those videos over on the big channel. And it was unbelievable how much interest there was in that entire saga. So, this was put in the contract because WNBA had major problems with this in the past, specifically with Derica Hamby. We saw that, the Aces player. Hamby was traded to the Sparks.
The salary tiers continue to climb as players gain more experience in the league. Players with 1 to 3 years of service will now earn at least $277,000. If you have 4 to 6 years under your belt, that minimum jumps to $285,000. These figures are set to grow every single year over the 7-year term of the deal. By the time a player hits 10 years of service, they are guaranteed at least $300,000. It is a massive pay raise across the board, which makes the continued insistence on free housing feel even more like a handout.
Trade them and don't question their commitment, although one could say maybe you should time your situation a little better with the actual league year and playing, that sort of thing, but still, the idea that you have to get consent from the player before trading them, it baffles me. It really does. So, key details on the new WNBA CBA performance bonuses.
There is also a very strange salary cap exception that is raising eyebrows among cap experts and fans alike. The league has created a system where a veteran player can sign for a $300,000 contract, but it only counts for $277,000 against the team cap. It is essentially a way to hide spending and give teams a bit of relief, but many are asking why the league needs these complex accounting tricks. It feels like the league is trying to subsidize team rosters in a way that keeps the actual cost of talent hidden from the traditional salary cap metrics.
I don't know. MVP of the league, $60,000. So last year, Asia Wilson got $15,000. This year, she'll get $60,000. Okay. So that's more numbers right there from this CBA. There's some strangeness in this CBA, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I still think it's ironic that we're finding out now that the owners may have buffaloed them into taking this deal. By the way, the term sheet.
While the money is a huge part of the story, the most bizarre addition to the contract involves a pregnancy clause that has people calling it crazy work. Under these new rules, a team must obtain a player's explicit consent before they can trade her if she is pregnant. This is a provision you will not find in the NBA, the NFL, or Major League Baseball. It creates a unique situation where a player's physical condition gives them a de facto no-trade clause. It is another example of the league moving away from traditional professional sports standards to create a highly specific, protected environment. This pregnancy rule did not just appear out of thin air, it was born out of a massive scandal that rocked the league recently. We all remember the drama involving Dearica Hamby and the Las Vegas Aces. Hamby was traded to the Los Angeles Sparks in 2023 while she was pregnant, and she later alleged that the Aces questioned her commitment to the team. She claimed she was penalized after disclosing her pregnancy, leading to a massive league investigation. That probe eventually resulted in the suspension of legendary coach Becky Hammon and a lawsuit that dragged the league's reputation through the mud. The fallout from that investigation was the catalyst for these new restrictive trade rules. The league found that the Aces had violated rules regarding player benefits and workplace conduct. Now, to prevent another PR nightmare, they have given players the power to block trades if they are expecting. While some see this as a win for player rights, others argue it complicates the business of basketball. If a team needs to move a player to improve their roster, they are now legally barred from doing so without permission, regardless of the basketball reasons, simply because of a personal life situation. Critics are pointing out the irony of the situation, noting that players constantly demand to be treated with the same respect and professional standards as NBA stars. However, in the NBA, trades are a cold, hard part of the business. Players are moved mid-season, mid-flight, and often without a moment's notice. By carving out these special protections, the WNBA is signaling that it wants the prestige of a major league but the protections of a niche organization. It is a delicate balance that seems to be tilting toward being a content machine driven by off-court drama rather than just sports. The drama is exactly what keeps people watching, and the league knows it. From the arrest of Brittany Griner to the constant friction between stars, the WNBA has become a magnet for controversy. The interest in the league's internal politics and contract disputes is unlike anything seen in its history. Millions of views are being generated not just by the highlights on the court, but by the wild provisions in these legal documents. This new CBA is just more fuel for the fire, proving that the league is leaning into the strangeness of its own operations to stay in the headlines. Even the performance bonuses have seen a massive spike that changes the financial landscape for the top stars. If a team wins the WNBA championship, every player on that roster now gets $60,000. That is a life-changing amount of money for some of these players. To put it in perspective, the league MVP used to get a $15,000 bonus. Under this new agreement, the MVP will now take home $60,000. These are not small jumps. These are massive financial incentives that show the league is finally flush with cash, yet they still refuse to drop the welfare perks. The list of bonuses goes on, with all WNBA first-team selections earning $30,000 and second-teamers getting $15,000. Even defensive honors are getting a boost, with second-team all-defensive players pulling in $7,000. It is clear the league wants to reward excellence, but the overlapping benefits create a confusing picture. When you add up the high minimum salaries, the massive performance bonuses, and the free housing, you realize these players are being compensated at a level that far exceeds their base salary figures. There is a growing theory that the league owners might have actually tricked the players into taking this deal. While the players are celebrating the pay raises and the pregnancy protections, some analysts believe the owners have secured long-term stability at a price that is still relatively low compared to the league's explosive growth. The term sheet has already been signed, and the players have voted to move forward. It is a signed, sealed, and delivered deal that will govern the league for the next 7 years, for better or for worse, regardless of how strange the provisions seem. The irony of the housing situation remains the biggest talking point for those who think the league is being too soft. In any other profession, if you get a massive raise, you are expected to handle your own bills. In the WNBA, you get a raise and keep the free rent. It creates an optics problem where the league looks like it is subsidizing a lifestyle rather than paying for a service. If the goal is truly to reach parity with the men's game, the first step would usually be standing on your own 2 feet financially, but this CBA moves in the opposite direction. The pregnancy clause also brings up questions about team building and the competitive nature of the league. Some have suggested that players should time their family planning better with the league year, though that is a highly controversial take. Still, from a purely management perspective, having a player who cannot be traded due to a pregnancy creates a roster management nightmare. It adds adds a layer of complexity to the front office that doesn't exist anywhere else in sports, making the job of a WNBA general manager one of the most unique and difficult in the world. The league has essentially turned itself into a social experiment in professional sports. No other organization has tried to blend high-level professional competition with such extensive social and personal safety nets. It is a model that some see as progressive and others see as pampered. The label of WNBA welfare is sticking because of how these benefits are structured. When you provide housing to people making $300,000, it is hard to argue that you are running a lean, mean professional business machine. Even with all the criticism, the interest in the league is at an all-time high. The drama surrounding the Becky Hammon suspension and the Hamby trade prove that people are invested in the soap opera of the WNBA. The league is leaning into that interest by codifying these protections into the new contract. They are giving the fans exactly what they want: more talking points, more controversy, and more reasons to debate the merits of the league. It is a strategy that seems to be working, even if it makes the traditional sports world scratch their heads. As the lawyers finish up the final paperwork on this agreement, the reality is setting in for the players and the fans. The WNBA is entering a new era where the money is bigger than ever, but the rules are weirder than ever. We are going to see million-dollar valuations for teams and six-figure bonuses for players, all while the league continues to pay for their apartments like they are in college. It is a strange dichotomy that defines the current state of women's basketball in America, where the fight for respect often clashes with the desire for special treatment. Ultimately, this CBA is a reflection of a league that is still trying to find its identity. Is it a major league that plays by the same rules as the Giants, or is it a specialized environment that requires its own set of unique protections? By choosing the latter, the WNBA has ensured that it will remain a content machine for years to come. Every time a pregnant player blocks a trade or a high earner moves into a team-funded luxury condo, the internet will explode with debate. That is exactly where the league wants to be, at the center of the conversation. The next 7 years will be a test of whether this model is sustainable. Can a league continue to grow while providing such extensive benefits to its highest paid employees? Or will the pressure to be taken seriously as a business eventually force them to cut the cord on the housing and the special trade rules? For now, the players have won a massive victory in terms of their bank accounts and their job security. They have managed to secure the kind of deal that most workers in any industry would dream of, even if it comes with a side of public scrutiny. The truth is that the WNBA is making its own rules, and it does not care if the traditional sports world thinks it is crazy. Whether you call it progress or you call it welfare, the numbers do not lie. The league is growing, the money is flowing, and the drama is only getting started. As we watch these new rules play out on the court and in the front offices, one thing is certain: the WNBA is no longer just a basketball league. It is a full-blown cultural phenomenon that is rewriting the book on what it means to be a professional athlete in the modern age.